I've been thinking about what my various experiences mean. And I'm assured most of you do too. What does being in samadhi mean? What about all these? I noticed that Chris is using the very advanced stare at ceiling technique. Go back to it. It's very interesting. And Vesselina's the trying to stay awake look. My spiritual career has been bewilderingly long. I remember what I felt like when I first started in spirituality seriously and stopped working for people that had no interest in spirituality. So my life could be said to be a life of underperformance, but all that I know is I am happy. I'd say that the happiness still comes and goes to an extent, but when it goes, I'm still left in peace. And I see the biggest enemy has always been my mind and what my mind thinks a spiritual person does, which is ideas I get from books and teachers who claim to have all kinds of experiences that they give to you. The Muktananda cult survives till today through such teachers as my friend Shankarananda. And while Muktananda really was enlightened, it was also a bit of a crackpot and oversexed himself. All these guys out there, all of them can be pointers, but seem to have not devoted a lot of thought on how to get the point across rather than just staying inside of you as a pointer. Now, have you ever watched a dog and you point to something And for a while, they're obsessed with the finger, wondering what the finger's doing out there. What are they going to do with it? Lick it, eat it. And they don't follow it to where it's pointing to. That's sort of an advanced step for a dog, but the dogs can do it. Cats, not so much. They can do it, but it's a lot harder work. But we tend to get stuck in the pointers as well as the systems itself. Because we're still dependent on the mind. The mind creates the four-dimensional world we live in of space and time. And it's really quite a long distance between when one starts in spirituality and when one loses one's mind. That's Radha. Yes, Radha. You don't say. Hey, baby, come here. Come on. This is my oldest girl. She's 12 and a half, in fairly good health. And she's so gentle, which is completely different than she used to be when she was 5 or 6 years old. She was a hell raiser then. But through my teachings, she mellowed out, discovered who she really was, and started being a nice cat. How do you get rid of your mind? Probably many of you are saying, who the fuck wants to get rid of their minds? These kind of people spend all day trying to figure out what their dreams meant, thinking that it was important to understand. There is nothing important to understand. There's nothing important to understand. If a teacher says he can tell you exactly what enlightenment and the world and spirit are all about, run away. Run away. He's full of shit. Self-deluded maybe, or a charlatan, more probably. Zen, you might say, was an adventure in unknowing. It's carried over in me. God, how attached I was to my mind and to knowing. Year after year, I pondered, what the hell is this all about? It's not about anything. It's the mind that needs to know what it's all about. But after you go inside and learn how to rest in yourself, all desire to think is lost. And what one does then and can then is to feel. And also have intuitions. which are left better unexpressed. There is no truth. That's a good place to start. It means getting away from the mind and what the mind does. I can't tell you how important that is. At least it was for me. To disengage as much as possible from your mind, at least when it comes to the time of day when you meditate or be by yourself in order to feel yourself. Getting rid of the mind is a spectacular achievement. And what I mean by that is to keep watching yourself globally as much as you can during the day. Turn your attention around into yourself, into your chest and heart area, your throat, your head, all over different things. And after a while, you get a very concrete picture of what you are not, and only a small part what you really are. The mind has this loudspeaker aspect to it, is it drowns out that silent entity in you, which is the divine. It's in emptiness that you find your divinity, also your strength. It's something happens to you when your mind is removed from the center of your attention to the periphery. You really see at that time that the mind is rather trivial. It was really only resolved or really only evolved to answer certain kinds of problems, which follow a phrase: to do this, you must. That's what the mind is good for. Or how to turn on the TV, how to operate the microwave, how to avoid doing the shopping yourself and shift the responsibility to someone else in your house. Because what happens when you lose your mind, you become primarily aware of yourself as consciousness. And the body is no longer in totality at the center of your consciousness, and the mind definitely isn't. In this state of being empty of mind, or at least able to watch it, is the rising of bliss, is the rising of energies, is the rising of the sense of beingness in you, which we interpret to be something like the ground level perception of me as an entity. But what it is freedom from the mind. You get to observe a much larger self. The ego within. And there's no mind there anymore. Just emptiness, the sound of the air conditioner, birds outside, and a vast emptiness within. It tends to be dark at first, the first few years you practice, but then you become aware of the light of consciousness and how there's light throughout your whole body. And then you feel these energies. They're kind of wild to be immersed in the energy field. Right, Mark? You can feel the energies in your flesh, in your muscles. Sometimes you feel the Kundalini experiences in your spine. But for me, the rising of the Kundalini was pretty painful because Kundalini would rise out of nothingness at the bottom of my spine and then push like a pencil, sharpened pencil, through the spinal canal. That's what it felt like. Until it reached the level of my heart. And it wouldn't penetrate through that. There was a painful blockage there. And like I did, you could just challenge that blockage every day by trying to let the Kundalini pass through rather than have it stopped at the heart. But it was stopped at the heart for a reason. I don't know what the reason was. But one day, the blockage disappeared. That's all there was to it. No big experience. No shattering experience. But after that, eventually, I became more and more aware of the light of consciousness within me. And then I became aware of the mind as an entity within that light of consciousness. Then I realized I was not the mind. I was not the mind. The mind is something that had possessed me for many, many years. And now it was lost. It was separate from me. I didn't have to pay attention to it anymore. I didn't have to use it to do common chores during the daytime. And more, I was able to sink into that lighted consciousness throughout my body. And I got happier and happier and happier. The external world bites the shit out of you. It's best to leave it alone, as Robert said. Don't pay too much attention to it. Even if Prigozhin marches on Moscow, don't take it too seriously. Do you know how little his marching on Moscow really affects you outside of a few hours of entertainment? We're entertained by the world. And the price is it imprisons you in a bubble of understanding. Freedom comes from knowing nothing and reacting in the minimalist possible way to the threats from the outside. So you can just rest in yourself, and you begin to notice how magnificent you are when there's no bother with the world whatsoever. You're no longer an aspirant to be king or emperor or enlightened or an engineer. You're just lost in your own inner space, which is lighted and blissful. The mind is transcended. You no longer identify with it at all. And you get lost in your internal processes. And less caring of what goes on in the world. Now, this sounds like it could be a real fuck up situation. You miss out on what the world has to offer. You become uncaring of other people's pain. But that doesn't happen at all. But you are, in a sense, alive in a cave consciousness. You disidentify with your body. You disidentify with the energies too. And all that you're aware of is the light of consciousness and your own happiness. And what happens to you when you hear about something wrong in the world or someone close to you having major problems? Is that it's important not to lose yourself in those external problems. Be there for the person, but no longer live in that problem that they see or feel. Your presence should have a calming effect to everyone around you. Because now, essentially, you've become calming waters, or like calming waters, not only for yourself, but for everyone. It's like the poison apple effect. You put a rotting apple in a barrel of apples, and soon they'll all be rotted. You put an enlightened person in a crowd, and eventually you find a ripple effect all over. Just a sense of quietude expressed through that person makes you feel warm and cuddly and without problems. But there's far more to it than feeling cuddly. There's feeling the light, experiencing light within, which is a visual kind of thing. But at the same time, you feel a sense of beingness, which grows on you. And by beingness, I mean a feeling of being alive, where you can feel your body because your body has a certain feel, which we call beingness. And concentrating on beingness takes you to a place of great happiness. And the more you practice meditation this way, the more you'll want to, because it makes you happy. And happiness is what we all seek. It's so hard, though, to work through all of the vasanas inside our mind and our being till you get to the point where you're consciously aware that you want nothing. You want for nothing, you want nothing. And you're more or less focused on your own happiness inside until someone comes along who's not so happy. And it becomes your job, so to speak, to help that person out of their unhappiness by learning how to feel the beingness inside. Because when you're immersed in your own beingness, you're immersed in happiness, joy, and absolutely caring nothing about the external world or your own body or your own mind. Sometimes while you're in this state, you're in rapture, really isolated from the world altogether. But it's important too to not talk about this too much to others, because at first all of these feelings and discoveries fall on you very lightly. But enough time has passed that all the things you had wished to do disappear. All the desire to have children. When you have a child, you're caught up in the world again. If you want a new house, instead of living in a rental, you own your own house. That's a 20 or 30 year defocusing of your attention on yourself. Don't pay the world much attention. Robert used to say this, and quite often, not to get locked into any external business, whatever it is, from providing medical care to the third world or whatever it is. Just always be aware of yourself. And when you're aware of yourself, truly, you aren't human anymore. As a matter of fact, after a while, you don't identify with anything. And words seem to make no sense to you because you see, or you understand that words are part of the problem that prevent you from freedom. Don't allow yourself to be brought out of yourself by focusing on something in the external world. Of course, if you have severe medical problems, you'll probably attend to them. And while you're attending to them, at least you're stuck in them. Let all the questions in you flow down and outwards from your body. Ship them out, so to speak. Get rid of them. Be in that empty awareness that is filled by the light of consciousness and secondly, feeling the bliss of beingness. Here, you're totally at the mercy of the benevolence of people around you. And you feel free. You're not worried whether the sustenance will ever come through or not. It doesn't matter after a while. By all means, as part of your practice, at all times, observe your heart. In a long time, to be aware of the heart and the pains of the heart. Until the Kundalini penetrates full length of the spine into the brain. After that, you're really free from the body and free to live the life divine. And at that point, you can, whatever you do to take care of yourself is done automatically. Feel your body. Find your mind and ignore it. The mind actually does have a location. It's not in the same place all the time. Usually it's someplace outside of my body. And it's like a little boiling sun out there, throwing these waves of thoughts off. But they don't catch me anymore. I just rest in doing nothing. And the world usually takes care of itself in the meantime. Doesn't need me. Doesn't really want me to participate. There's nowhere to go. Nothing to do. But that's certainly not all of what enlightenment is about. That's part of it. But the biggest part of it is perceiving yourself as not the body anymore, but spirit or consciousness. Then we can see ourselves as the life force, the wave after wave of happiness inside of us that washes through us. There's another principle involved in all of this. That's our tendency, or the mind's tendency, to identify with certain ideas or things or objects. I don't identify with my mind at all. But it's something I have to live with. But I don't pay it much attention. I don't identify with the energies anymore because they seem to be on a different existential level than me. I could identify myself as being the perceiver. But I don't have to. I remember a few years ago, can't remember his name right now, who told me he doesn't identify with anything anymore. He's not the mind, he's not the body, he's not the energies. He's nobody. Just like Robert, he's nobody. Of course, we could create a spiritual sect about being nobody, even have nobody robes and various grades of robes to see how much you disidentify with your world and a lot of interior states. But don't identify. It's so true. Don't identify yourself as a seeker. If anything, identify with yourself as the seeker of who you are. And once you can find out who you are, you totally melt into that. That's your identity. But you can't, I say, I identify with this because it's different from that. But what is really of help also is to observe that emptiness in yourself. Observe any energies that arise in yourself. And then attend closely to the sense of beingness. Now, can I ask, are there any resources for people here to get what they need for their spiritual development? Do we all have access to the chanting tapes? Mark,
Yes, Edward.
can you speak a little louder?
Yes, Edward. How's it going?
I gotta push that up a little. I think we should have a central place that everybody can find the chanting tapes as well as any texts that are reasonably applicable. Some place for the resources rather than just having only satsang. Is there such a thing?
Well, on most streaming services, there's a pretty good selection of chants. So a lot of people here may have like Spotify or some other streaming service. And of course, there's always the Weebly satsang at Edgy, and it's kind of limited. Then there's YouTube.
I personally downloaded the chant section off your website, Ed, and put them on my phone just for easy access so I can listen to them through a music player. I don't know if everybody has the skills to do that, but that's, I don't know, maybe we could possibly, if we had the raw audio files for the music, we could put them in like a Google Drive folder or something and give people access to the link if they wanted to download them themselves. Or I don't know, maybe think of another way to access them easily. But Mark's right, there's a lot of resources to find the chants pretty easily, Spotify and such.
Including the Muktananda chants? They've more or less disappeared. And now they're replaced by Chidvilasana's version of the same chants, which just don't have the power of the Muktananda chants, the original chants.
I'll post a YouTube page in the chat. Has a lot of the Muktananda chants.
Okay. And can you email it to me and I'll put it up on something or other? Good. Following chanting has been incredibly important to me. The states I got in 40 years ago, when there was really good chanting going on, are similar in many ways to where I am now all the time. So they can be a guide, so to speak. Every teacher I've been with has emphasized chanting. But there are a lot of people who are so intellectual that they reject chanting. Robert even had some talks about that, about people around him at the Ramana ashram who didn't chant, and then they did chant, and the difference it made. You can feel it for yourself. Above all, I care for the Muktananda ones because they have so much power. But the ones we usually play are, what's his name? Who doesn't
Krishna
chant?
Das.
Krishna Das is beautiful, yes, but lacks the power of the Muktananda chants. So practice, play along with the chanting. Don't hesitate to email me if you have any problems at all. Or Mark. Or Ian and Cassie.
Could somebody be sure to post today's satsang as well? I think it was really excellent today.
You do?
Give you an A for today, Ed.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Anytime.
Feel yourself. Just close your eyes. Turn your attention around. And become aware of what you find inside. For me, it's light, peace, a sense of beingness. An enormous power. I don't know what it is. And being aware of that enormous power within us really makes us powerful in the external world. This state radiates. You could say it heals too. Okay. Any questions?
I just want to say, Ed, that to me now it becomes obvious that I've had beingness erupt naturally throughout my life, but it was so discouraged. Like when I was in grade school and I would drift off into what I now know as beingness. And, you know, I would get so reprimanded. Mark, what did I just say? I don't know. And don't do that again. Like there is such hostility towards kids just, you know, engaging their natural selves. And I could understand why it's done, but it's so overdone. There's such a it's so all or nothing. So I just want to say this the system is geared totally against what you teach here. And it's almost like, I mean, understandably why, but I mean, it's misguided and it's unfortunate. I just want to say that.
Thank you. He's right. The whole world is focused on doing, sort of ignoring your feelings. And it's not often you find people encouraging you to do nothing in a situation. You go to a doctor because you have a problem. He says, do nothing. Just relax. How long do you think you'd last if that worked? But it does help if you have some sort of disease process to just ignore it after you've found out what can be done for the condition.
Edgy, I have a question when you're done.
I'm done.
Okay. So some of this are, like any other spiritual discipline. If I had to practice certain technique, sort of thing, what's happening is it requires some sort of imagination, visualization. Let's say in your case, you say like drop down to heart center or
Yes.
into the abdominal area. I try to imagine my cavity of the chest, the front and back, it is this small, which is the front and back is just this small. I struggle to imagine the space there. Same thing with the neck, same thing with the stomach. If I close my eyes, try to imagine even the head, there's no, means like, there is no real sense of actual dimensions. That's the biggest problem I've been facing. Let's say if I try to look for the spinal cord appears to be bigger compared to the whole back, which is this small. And this spinal cord is like this, and in between this, it really bothers me. I mean, like, there's no space to drop down my attention to the here. So whenever I try to tell you that I could only, I'm comfortable to be feeling here versus going inside, because my inability to go back into inside. I know if I just don't do anything and I try to imagine, then I kind of visualize or some outside thing like a tube. The whole body is like made with like a tube. When I apply to myself, try to feel it, then I won't be able to. It's like there's no, I can't. If I try to imagine, the front and back are kind of like almost touching type, So these are what are the problems I have. Some of these, few of these, like there are tons, but these are some.
Can you feel inside of your head?
Probably I try to size it and try to feel the whole thing, but it will be somewhere, it just sizes like like this. It depends. I mean, sometimes I do feel a tingling in the center of the head, right? It like at this level to deep and somewhere in between. When I do the mantra chanting, for a while, then there is in the center of the head, there is a nice tingling feeling, or however, it's not too great, but feeling. Other than that, I can feel this side head, and this everything. But if I try to get in, I can feel this. But if I try to go inside, I mean, this doesn't give me a size dimension where I can just drop towards it. Then what I would do, I imagine artificially that whatever I watched in my mirror, my chest size being this big, then I artificially put that size and try to just imagine, okay, this is me, this is thing, and stuff like that. But it doesn't feel always the case, or persistent.
Can you try this, which is to attend to your breathing from when it first enters your nostrils,
Yeah.
rolls around and down into your throat, and then into your lungs. Can you try that to feel? You can even imagine that when you breathe in, you're pumping up the lungs and building a space inside your chest. Like a balloon. You can imagine yourself blowing up a balloon in your chest by inhaling
Yeah,
and
tried
feeling it. What?
I tried that, like trying to be just building up, but
Yes.
it's just for that moment, then all the time.
Does anybody else have any suggestion?
See if you can, VJ, see if you can feel your body all at once. And just become nothing, just relax into the entirety of your body.
I could feel that. I could feel the whole body at once.
And then just relax and deepen into that, and just, let go of everything and just relax, like your mind doesn't work anymore. Like you just drop out of the mind into the body sense, without effort, just because it feels good.
But I could feel only the surface of the whole body, whatever in my awareness, like getting into inside of, let's say, legs or hands. I could, but it's like a dark. There is, I can imagine, but it doesn't, I don't feel anything there other than just pulsing sensation on the surface of the body.
Why don't you get an introductory book on quantum touch techniques?
I did. You gave that long back, and I did practice them.
And
It developed that body vibration or sensation, not inside but outside on the surface level. But I try to feel that flow of the same similar sensation. It never happened. Regardless of how much ever I tried, um, I did Reiki master thing, and I practiced over the years, like flowing that energy, filling that whole tube of the body and flowing too. But I had to imagine in order to feel confident that it's flowing through. Otherwise, there is no sensation of actual flowing.
EJ. It was only when I gave up on the idea of the success of any technique whatsoever that I found some peace. As long as I had tries and have tos and musts there, and they still come. But I've just given up on any semblance of any method whatsoever, and I'm just reside in the grace of satsang. That's all I have, and that's all I want now. And it's happening perfectly, and I can go into problem times, followed by good times, followed by problem times. But honestly, I now see that my whole spiritual journey was ambition. It was the idea that at some time in the future, when I am good enough, something good will happen. And it was all bullshit, all of it. And I respectfully suggest to you that you just give up all that stuff and just sit in the absolute impossibility of where you find yourself.
Yeah.
Second.
The other observation was that when I imagined that something is flowing through, I feel that on the right side of my head, on the area, there is a block type. It means like that actual whatever the trying to flow is not flowing through the right side of the area, but left side, I don't. Rest of the head part, I don't feel anything. That's fine. But here it feels like it's not going through. I felt like surprised and why there is that feeling, but I don't know whether that has anything to do with anything.
Well, I think this may not suit you, but because of where you are, but all my spiritual life, I've gone inward. And whenever I had a problem, I just watch everything. Watch your lungs, feel the muscles, and just relax. I agree not to add all the different things you've been doing, the visualizations. Forget about it. Just be yourself. That's just a technique that I used, which I found very valuable. But if you don't find it valuable or you can't practice it, find your own technique of just relaxing totally. Let go of the problem of not being able to penetrate. Let it go. And if you want, practice some of the quantum touch things of watching the energies in your body, within your body, since you do feel energies. Don't worry. It's not necessary, essential for awakening, but it's a technique that I used all my life. What do you do? All of you. Just relax and observe what's going on. It allows you to take whatever it is in and to transmute it inside your own psyche. Just relax. The more in touch you are with your inner sense of beingness, the more happy you'll feel. And the more guided your actions will be. Not guided by something outside or an idea about heaven and earth, but guided by your own intuition, which grows. Studying yourself, observing yourself is essential to awakening. Do it your own way. I'm sure there are many props you can use for deepening your penetration of your body-mind, but they're not that important compared with learning to constantly let go, let go, let go, let go of all the problems and of all the things that hound you. Just let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. Not being able to get inside and visualize the emptiness, let go of that. Just let go. And feel yourself the any way you can. Okay. It's time for me to go. Let's turn this over to, I don't know what happened last time I hit leave. It did give you the option of
Ed, I haven't made you
what?
host. I haven't made you host because I thought it might be easier if you just say who you want it to go to, and then I can do it for you. And you don't need
Okay.
to do it anymore.
Ian and Cassie it'll go to. Who's that? Can you make it happen?
We'll make it happen.
Let go,
We are hosts now.
Is it happening now?
It's done. Mhm.
Okay. I'll see you all. You know I love you all. And I want you all to pick up from wherever you live now and move around me here in Peoria, Arizona. You really, really have nothing to do except satsang here.
Wow.
It's a fucking desert. There's nothing happening here. So you have no choice. It's not like New York City where you got constant things happening around you. Anyway, it's just a fucking desert. That's why spiritual people come to the fucking desert, because there's nothing to do. You'll confront yourself in no time and run away screaming. Just kidding. Take care. I love you all.
I love you.
Thank you.
Keep meeting.